I'm here with presenters from the Warwick Pugwash Society at their Peace Conference. So I was just wondering if you guys wanted to introduce yourselves firstly and tell us a little bit about what Warwick Pugwash is.
Sure. Hi, my name is Ezra Friedman. I'm a executive member of International Student Youth Pugwash, which is an international network that oversees British Pugwash, including the Warwick Society, in a very loose fashion. I'm also the co-chair of Israeli Student Young Pugwash. And yeah, that's who I am in my Pugwash life.
Hello, my name is David Almási, and honestly, I just dropped in to have a quick presentation today on Warwick Peace Conference, but I do believe I am the member of the society. However, I'm not sure which societies I signed up at the beginning of the year. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Ayala, and I think that our friend here is a member of us because it's free to join the Warwick Pugwash Society. I'm the BP of the society, and I'm also a second-year PACE student. And here at Warwick, what we try to do is basically bridge the gap between the STEM and social sciences students, and also the business students, and make everyone work together towards a safer world that understands the ethical implications of the deployment of some technologies, and also the implications that having some policies can have on technology.
Hi, my name is Rebecca. I'm from Tel Aviv, and I sit on the board for Israel Young Pugwash. Yeah, and that's why I'm here today. And so Pugwash is made up of a bunch of different youth societies all over the state, all over the world, actually. It started in Pugwash, Nova Scotia, right before, what year?
1957.
Yeah. And so there are senior groups in a lot of places, and there are also younger groups, and we're trying to encourage dialogue and a active and proactive civil society.
Brilliant, thank you so much. And I was also curious as to what you guys are presenting on here today. So if you'd be able to explain that. Sure.
I presented earlier today about the Iran nuclear deal, also known as more formally the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA. In my professional life, I work at the Institute for National Security Studies, which is a non-partisan foreign policy and strategic think tank in Israel, in which I am involved in studies and research around Iran. Essentially, the subject of my presentation was the coming of May 12th, in which President Trump is required by American law to either renew or not to renew, as in to sign, quite literally, a waiver of sanctions related to the Iran nuclear deal. Come May 12th, I believe, as do many experts, I'm by no means an expert, but just saying, that the Iran nuclear deal will fall apart because President Trump will refuse to sign that waiver, and therefore sanctions will be reimposed on Iran, and the resulting fallout from that is not good for anybody in the Middle East as well as in the world within the context of nuclear weapons, and that's not good for anybody, and that's what I presented on today.
I had a short presentation on how to cope with illiberal systems rising in Eastern Europe. I mostly used my own examples because I'm a member of a Hungarian opposition movement called Momentum, and I hope I could give some ideas on how can someone change something in his or her environment what we are not satisfied with. Yeah.
My presentation was mostly about the politics of outer space. So the focus of my presentation was showing that space assets are vital for our way of life, are vital for our security, and are also vital for, just everything that we have around here. For example, our phones, agriculture, weather forecasting, early warning satellites when it comes to nuclear weapons. And I want to stress how vulnerable they are, and also that war in space is a possibility. It's something that has been conceptualized, and is something that, sadly, at this moment, is likely.
I presented on, my topic today was a little bit more on what's beneath all of the hard security issues. So I'm a graduate student for public health and emergency and disaster management, and so I focused on the failure in a way of the international community to pay attention to the mental health crises that is going on inside Syria right now. There's been a lot of research and attention that's been placed on the refugees, which is important, but a lot of people we've kind of dropped the ball in a way on treating what's going on in Syria, and the current frameworks that are in place don't really address people's needs. So we have a lot of work to do.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. And just finally, what would you like to be the main takeaway from your presentation?
I would like the main takeaway from my presentation. It's a pretty simple point that we live in a very complicated world in which, unfortunately, extreme or polarized forces are taking shape, whether it's within the Western world or the non-Western world. And we need to try our best as individuals, as a part of civil society dialogue, to moderate the discussion, whether within the context of the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal, which it may seem like we as civil society movements are a minor point in those conversations. But as many people know today, as it's not a secret anymore, Pugwash was one of the main instruments that begun dialogue on the discussion of the JCPOA, the creation of the Iran nuclear deal to begin with, through the form of track 2 diplomacy. Therefore, we can make a difference, we can moderate conflict, and we can essentially prevent, or at least minimize, the damage from the decision that will probably come to pass on May 12th.
My point was, I think that 21st century technology is a very great opportunity for opposition movements in order to tackle down authoritarian regimes who usually controls most of the traditional media. And in that way, internet remains the last chance of the opposition to break through. And I spoke mainly about how you can build up a very successful movement based on social media, Facebook, Instagram. Yes, this is it.
Well, the main takeaway from my presentation, I think, is that, as Ezra mentioned, we live in a very complex world, and we are going to face some serious challenges in the coming months, in the coming years, and coming decades, and that we can make a difference. But I would like to stress particularly the need we have for people from different fields to work together. We need multidisciplinary approaches to deal with these issues. Otherwise, we won't get any solutions.
The main takeaway from my presentation today was that despite the fact that there are stigmas regarding mental health, and they're amid every single society, trauma is there, and we have tools to treat it. Whether or not we use them is another thing. But it's about, the point is that if we go home, and even if you tell one person, this is what I heard today, that's making a difference, and that's partially removing the stigma. And hopefully things like this will lead to greater research, because a lot of research that deals with mental trauma, especially in conflict situations, resulting from conventional and unconventional warfare, has been done by the West. And there's a need to kind of switch that focus and look into areas where the conflict is happening and see how can we take the basics that we have, but how can we apply them in these settings in a way that is culturally friendly and accepting and allows people to really grow. Because at the end of the day, the people that are on the ground aren't the ones that are perpetrating these attacks, but they're the ones that have to live in this situation for the rest of their life, and they're the ones that will have to rebuild these societies. So.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining me all here today.